What's up guys, this is Chris back with another video, and in this one we're going to be discussing Ethereum, ETH or Ether, the actual token. This has been hitting all-time highs over the past few days, and here today you could see it had a really great day, up over 15% or so, and we're seeing a little bit of a pullback, but nevertheless this has been on an absolute tear. So we're going to discuss exactly what catalysts are we expecting from Ethereum, what are some price predictions, and a couple of other ways that you can play Ether on this rise going forward. So on Coinbase, you can see that the price of Ether is now around $3,287 US. And on the level 2, it is looking pretty evenly matched here. So we could see a little bit of consolidation after a big move up. Now, as you can see, with every big rise, it does tend to pull back a little bit before making its next move, at least on the hourly chart here. And when you look at the daily chart, I'm going to actually go over to tradingview.com. Looking at the RSI for Ethereum, you can see that it hit around at 80.85 over the past 24 hours. Now, typically when it does hit this high of an RSI, I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of a pullback, but historically we have seen instances where this gets even more momentum and is able to reach an even higher RSI, like RSI 90. And the price of Ethereum tends to continue to rise more than you might imagine. But eventually it will pull back. There's no doubt about that. So if this does pull back, it shouldn't concern too many people. It is the normal course of price action. It wouldn't be surprising to retrace maybe 50% of the move perhaps, like you see in a couple of instances in the past, most notably in the beginning of this year in 2021, where Ethereum price went from around $740 to $1,300, $1,400 pretty quickly, and then it hit a low of around $900 there. So it is a very volatile currency, of course, as with all of these cryptocurrencies, but with a lot of reward potentially. So moving forward, let's discuss now what are some catalysts that have been driving the move and what could continue to drive the move. The first one that is interesting, I think, is perhaps understated, is the potential for Ethereum to be more widely accepted as a number 2 currency, a hedge to Bitcoin, or some diversification away from Bitcoin, or potentially even one day surpassing Bitcoin's market cap. Now, it is about a 2-to-1 ratio here, if not a bit more than that. So Bitcoin does have a huge lead. It was much earlier to the scene compared to Ethereum. Bitcoin started in 2009. Ethereum started around 2015. So as a first mover, there is going to be a lot of advantage. But as far as the technical aspects here, you can see that Bitcoin has been starting to stall a bit here. It has had a series of 4 different corrections in 2021 alone, and each time it was 20 to 30%, give or take a few percentage points. And as far as momentum, it definitely is a lot weaker than Ethereum here. You can see that the RSI for Bitcoin is only around a 48 and actually touched around 30 there. So it is behaving pretty weakly while Ethereum has been gaining in strength. So there is potentially some shift in leadership, or at least some reversion to the mean here where things start to balance out a bit more. And the dominance of the crypto market for Bitcoin fell below 50% last week for the first time since August 2018. A very unique thing about Ethereum that I like compared to a lot of other coins here, even Bitcoin, is that you could build decentralized applications upon their blockchain network to provide services similar to those offered by typical consumer applications, but they use blockchain technology to grant users more control over the data by eliminating the need for centralized intermediaries to manage the data, thus making the service decentralized. All right, and specifically when it comes to this, you want to mainly focus on the fact that you can make smart contracts on the Ethereum network. So essentially you have 2 parties agreeing to a contract that automatically executes whenever the conditions are met. You know, I could literally make up a contract where it's like, if C Limited is $1,000 per share by 2025, then you get 10 Ethereum. Very easily set in stone and executed. You don't need someone else to execute it for you. So these smart contracts and financial applications that use them allow people to have secure transactions across borders anywhere in the world. This really contrasts with a lot of other cryptocurrencies that don't have any real intrinsic type of function. So besides the fact that you could say that digital currencies all have some sort of hedge against inflation, and the fact that we're printing trillions and trillions of dollars, the new money supply in the United States has increased drastically over the past year because of all the stimulus bills, 1, 2, and 3, and we have more infrastructure bills possibly, and tax credits and things like that. But having a real practical application to Ethereum definitely sets it apart from everything else out there. And there are so many coins that are actually created on the Ethereum network. And non-fungible tokens, which is another reason here why Ethereum's going to go higher, is because most of those NFTs are built upon Ethereum network. So when this huge demand for NFTs is going through the roof right now, and this is a whole new wave, you see so many public companies trying to pivot towards NFTs, even like Funko Pop, Live by Live, which is a company that I also invest in, is trying to get into NFTs. You see things being sold for tens of millions of dollars on that market, and a lot of those pure NFT stocks are actually going up a lot as well, like TKAT. Then there is a really compelling reason, again, for Ethereum to go higher. And here you can see that European Investment Bank issued its first ever digital bond on the Ethereum blockchain, which makes a lot of sense to me. If there is a smart contract, and we know bonds essentially are a fixed income asset, right? You put a certain amount of money in, you get a certain amount of interest by a particular date. It kind of just makes sense that it would fit into the parameters of contract. And it could definitely be further introduced into the traditional system when it comes to financial institutions. Last fundamental thing I want to mention about Ethereum is that it's undergoing upgrades to its network to make it more scalable, more secure, and more sustainable. And what that means is that when it comes to scalability, it's going to be able to support a greater number of transactions and at a faster rate to process those transactions and make it cheaper to use. Right now, the fees to build and execute those smart contracts is kind of high, and if it is going to get widespread adoption, they will have to make it more affordable for widespread use. Second thing is that it needs to be more secure, so as more people adopt it, especially institutional investors that buy into it, they want to know that their Ether is going to be safe from attacks. And Ethereum Classic, which is a spin-off of Ethereum, actually had a couple of attacks in the past. I believe like 4 different attacks. And lastly, it needs to be more sustainable. So there are a lot of critics when it comes to cryptocurrencies who believe that it's a waste of energy and really bad for the environment. I totally get that because, companies that are running these mining rigs are operating tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of machines. And, you think about the whole world, especially China, that also has a ton of computing power. I believe the majority of computing power, and they're burning a ton of electricity, and it's just really bad for the environment. So if they can make this whole process more sustainable, it will attract more investors, especially those that are ESG, environmental, social, and governance, right? So that is something that you can expect to continue to help push and drive Ethereum price up. Some crypto bulls already have a $5,000 price target within the next 7 days for Ethereum. Now, I typically don't like short-term price targets, so I'm not going to comment too much on this. It's definitely possible, but it's also gone up like 50% in a week or so. So definitely, temper some expectations here, but hey, it could happen with this institutional buying and relative strength compared to Bitcoin. There are even some bulls that are predicting $100,000 by the end of this decade. But of course, to contrast this, you have Charlie Munger, who says Bitcoin is disgusting and contrary to the interests of civilization, and it's too useful for kidnappers and extortionists and so forth. So I do not like shuffling out extra billions of dollars to someone who just invented a new product out of thin air. I get some of his point here, but I think it's also the older generation that is a bit downplaying it. But, at the same time, when he says it's good for extortionists and kidnappers, that hasn't ever stopped people from using cash to do those things. So I'm not really seeing the point there. I think that you also have to say that this provides a really huge value for people that are not kidnappers or extortionists either. So there's pros and cons, and I'm sure the more developed these currencies get, the more safe it will be. And I'm sure also at some point there will be regulation to speak of. And of course, it is always a risk investing in digital currencies because of how volatile it is. So overall, all in all, Bitcoin and Ethereum is doing really well during this year. I don't see it slowing down at all. Every time there has been a correction, it has been very controlled and very immediately bought up. Now, alternatively, guys, if you did want to invest in the Ether space without buying the actual coin, you could go ahead and invest in some mining companies like Hive Blockchain right here. You can see it is an OTC stock. Ticker symbol is HVBTF. All right, this is Vancouver, Canada based, and they do have a profitable setup. Of course, they should be, and really high gross margins in this space. Now, they do make about 20,000 Ether coins per quarter. At the time of this article, it says it would be equivalent to $36 million. With the current price of Ether, it should be more like around $70 million. So Hive Blockchain could make close to $300 million in revenue, and it is only a $1.4 billion company, so it's not too expensive when you look at a price to sales ratio. Another one is SYSX. Sysorex just did a reverse merger with TTM Digital Assets, and they also primarily operate to mine Ethereum. And you can see here that just recently, after that merger was completed, this price of the stock has done really well. And you could see that the past day or two, including after hours here, there's a lot of movement for the stock. So I think there's definitely some people that are going to continue to buy this Ethereum mining company. So let me know in the comments down below, guys. Are you invested in Ethereum? Do you see Ethereum being more valuable than Bitcoin potentially in the future? Until next time, my friends, stay well and invest responsibly.